the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 126, recorded Friday, January 17th, 2014. Bootleg CES.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing. Scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. AVWeek. This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. Welcome. How are you? With us this week, his name is Matt Scott. He's the world's worst Canadian and one of my very best friends. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Matt is from Omega Audio Video in London, Ontario, Canada. So parts which is actually lower or more south than some parts of the U.S. Also,
11 states, actually.
11. There you go. Also with us is Jason Griffin. Jason is lower third, if you can see it there, integratorsacademy.com. He also works as a project manager for Via Home. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Grant Clouser. Grant is the one of his titles is technology editor at Electronic House magazine, but he also does a lot of other stuff. So how are you, Grant?
I'm very good, thank you.
And last but not least, the ringleader of the Red Band's AV Shouts, Chris Neto, and also works for AVHelpdesk. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Tim?
Good. And real quickly, they didn't pay us for this, but we think they're cool people. So Chris is on a Vadio group. I almost said group share. Good Lord. On a what's the name of that stupid product?
It is a Vadio group station.
Group station. I wanted to say group share.
Testing it out and giving it a shot to see how well it would do with Google Hangouts. I've been testing it with various different applications, and what a better application to sit here and have a fine podcast with you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This week we're gonna run down CES. I know it was a week ago. Grant was physically there. The rest of us had to slep it out in our respective locations. But hey, you know what? The one thing that's nice about CES nowadays is folks like Grant get to go and do a really good job reporting. So we're going to get his perspective, and then we're going to get the guys that weren't there, their perspective as well. Also talk about some rumblings around Samsung and their manufacturing process. We have a gentleman who says the Blu Ray is dead, and I actually happen to agree with him. So we'll chat about that. But first, good Lord, it was probably, I don't even think CES was a day old, was like a day done. And Google makes this not so small announcement. Well, let's just kind of put it this way. Google bought Nest, if you haven't heard yet, and they bought them for a paltry $3.2 billion with a B dollars. So we're just kind of go around the horn here, guys, and see what you think of that and where you think Google's going and Nest is going as far as that. Matt, we'll start with you. You work and live and breathe in the residential world. First of all, where do you think Google's going with the purchase of Nest?
They're trying to take over the world.
Well, they're there,
or at least your house.
Yeah.
They're being Google. They're going after anything and everything they can do to be everything and anything you need. Nice. And that's, I think that's what they're doing. They're going after the biggest, maybe not the biggest, sorry, one of the most hyped products in home automation that users seem to love and gives them a little bit of something. And they went and paid a boatload for it, which is that. I think that's the scary part to me, is the amount of money that they paid for a company that makes, wait for it, 2 products. 2. So technically that was what, 3.6 billion? So that's 1.2.
Don't do math in your head.
That's a lot of freaking money
You'll
for
hurt yourself.
a product. For just one.
There we go.
I don't want to take my shoes off. Come on. So that's my take.
All right. Jason, when it comes to residential, what does this mean for the residential market? The fact that Google is kind of getting their way in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, there's going to be some time before this really makes its way down, I think, into our everyday installations. I mean, we already have a lot of clients who love Nest. It's not really a product that we felt like we could do much with. You know, they did open their API recently, which was, I thought, an interesting move. Haven't personally done anything to work with that, but, you know, I think Google's acquisition of Nest is a bigger story just from the higher level of, you know, the perforation and the proliferation rather of the Internet of Things into, you know, people's homes, and it really does go to show that this technology is making its way into our everyday lives, and like Matt said, I think this is really a big play for Google in terms of just the data and getting into our homes, and there's no company in the world that's better at monetizing those large amounts of information. So I think that's Google's real interest here.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
That is true. Grant, you work and write for Electronic House, so let's get back into residential real quick and play off of what Jason said there. I mean, what does this do for, you know, the control market inside residential? We're going to talk about the fact that Samsung, and you wrote a piece about the Samsung control as well. Where does that put that market?
Well, I kind of doubt that Google is all that interested in getting seriously deeper into the home automation world. I think more they're interested in just finding out what everybody's temperature is in their home so they can sell them more blankets or something.
That's possible. Mr. Neto, let's talk about control broadly, right? Something that Tony Fadell, who is the head of Nest, if you're not familiar with his name, he's the guy, one of the founders of Nest. He has said in the last 6 months, you know, the whole idea behind the Jetson home is gone. It's not attainable, at least not in the near future here. But there have been some folks in the AV industry who have, you know, I don't know if it's scaremongering or not, but they've said, you know, AMX and Crestron better watch out because Google has bought Nest for $3.2 billion, and, you know, they're going to be coming after, you know, the big players in control. Is that fair, or is that, you know, are they, you know, are we missing the mark here, and there's something bigger at play?
Well, before I get into that, Tim, when Google bought Nest, actually my first thought was, we've seen this before. When Cisco bought Linksys, when Cisco bought Flip, everybody thought, oh my God, Cisco's going home, into the homes now. What is Cisco?
Nice.
Appropriately a Jetson ring.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
By accident,
well,
that would be my notification. But everybody panicked that everything was falling apart when Cisco was buying those consumer-based products as well, and the fear of why Cisco now worrying about going into the home, and when Cisco started developing the telepresence for the home product, you know, was that the beginning of it? Now you fast forward a couple years, here we are now with Nest. Nest is a thermostat, okay? Let's not call it a touch panel. Let's not, you know, make more of this than what it is. It's a company buying another company for its algorithms. I don't know. I don't see Crestron, AMX going anytime soon. There is no threat. You know, I've read the same article of that, and watch out, and here they come. And, you know, more of the comments that came after that article was more based on, will now Google or Microsoft now go after a legitimate, you know, big-time player in the control industry and make a play for the, you know, the home automation side. You know, there are other players out there outside just Crestron and AMX. Obviously, I'm sure Control 4, Savant, Extron, they all have something to say about that. And, you know, there's more than just those two, but they're looked at probably as the two big ones.
Well, and there's a reason for that, though.
Side.
There's a reason for that,
that?
though. I would say that they're some of the more successful ones monetarily. It's something that I made a comment on one of the LinkedIn groups this week. And that's this. From every smart person that's told me, roughly what Crestron brings in on a yearly basis, and obviously you're not going to find out unless you get George Feldstein drunk. That roughly you're looking at $250-300 million that they pull in on a yearly basis, and let's call it. Let's be honest here. Crestron is probably one of the more successful control companies. That's what they pull in for the control side, and AMX is a little bit less than that. I would say the Extron from a control side is much less than that. You've got Aurora that's in there. You've got Control 4. You have Savant. You have all these other guys. Let's say all of them put together, maybe you're going to touch $500-600 million. All right.
Yeah.
They paid $3.2 billion for this thing. This is not about control. This is not about somebody going after Crestron or AMX or anybody else. This is about something way bigger. What's that, Chris?
Yeah. They're after something that Nest has perfected.
Yes.
And
their intellectual property.
Yeah. Yeah, Grant, you're right.
Yeah. I read an interesting article about that actually, and what Nest was actually really paying for, and a lot of it I think comes down to Tony Fadell and his capabilities. And granted, yes, $3.2 billion is a lot to pay for just talent, so it's obviously bigger than that. It's also the hardware, which obviously there's not much of, right? But I think what Google sees in Nest is the potential to play with a partner that's been in the hardware space and has been successful in the hardware space. And Google, to this point, hasn't really been able to penetrate the hardware. So I think there's a convergence there between what Google is trying to do to, get more data on our everyday lives and what Nest is already producing and producing well.
I don't know about that. And the reason why I say that is everything that Google has put out, whether small or not, has been successful.
Yeah.
You look at their tablet, the Nexus 7, for an Android-based tablet, it's widely considered one of the better tablets out there because it comes out minus or sans bloatware. The Chromecast is a $30 unit that allows us to do the same thing that some other more expensive products would do. Yeah. They've been tiptoeing and putting their foot and toe in the water, getting ready for, for hardware. Nest is just another, if you want to look at it, the tablet was $200. Chromecast, they're all buying or selling products in that $200 range. I don't know. I see a pattern.
By the way, Jason, if somebody ever asks you if you're worth $3.2 billion, you should say yes. You don't ever say that you're not worth that much money. I mean, good Lord. Moving on, we're going to continue along the control side of stuff. Samsung, because I don't know if it's part and parcel of Google, but hey, let's go. Continue here. Samsung has entered the home automation market. Written by our fine friend Grant Klauser from from Electronic House. Here's the thing about this, guys. First of all, the controller is called a Lumen, and that right there bugs the dickens out of me. Lumen is something you measure for light, and but anyhow, that's neither here nor there.
It's different in the Japanese translation.
I'm sure it means like pebble or something stupid. It's Grant,
all of Asia.
Grant, according to only Japan. It's a small couple islands. It controls AC, cameras, LED lights, a floor cleaner, you say in your piece, a refrigerator, which really kind of threw me off for a second because I'm not quite sure the setting. Maybe I guess you can control the settings on your refrigerator. But it looks like that they have actually thought this thing out and are pushing forward with this. So, the first question, Grant, we'll start with you since you're the guy that wrote the piece and saw it. Is this viable? Is this something that Samsung is going to make a decent push at, or was it just kind of a CES thing?
Well, Samsung already does, I'm pretty sure, have technologies like this deployed in Korea. And there are other systems like that. Panasonic has some smart home type systems that they deploy in Japan. LG has launched some similar things. For the U.S. market, I'm envisioning final product. This is still prototype stuff. The final product might be a solution along the lines of the Revolve or the Staples Connect. The person I spoke with seemed to indicate that a more open architecture rather than having the components closed just to work within a Samsung world is probably what they're going to do. So it'll connect with other Wi-Fi or other Z-Wave type things. And what I see, this is just a sign that that level of kind of DIY home automation, similar to what's going on with Nest, is just getting much more viable. But at the same time, I don't see that really as a big challenge for the professional installation. There's just a huge gulf between what a Control4 Crestron Elan type system can do compared to what the Samsung or the Staples Connect or the Revolve or the Lowe's Iris, which I'm testing out in my house now. There are people who will fix their own car, and there are people who have someone else fix their car. And I still believe those two markets are going to coexist for quite a long time.
And that's valid. That's valid. Matt, where do you think Samsung is going to fit in this whole control business?
Not really in our world. That's for
Very
sure.
nice.
Well, it's like anything. This past week we've been doing a lot of, after Christmas. Hey, I went out and bought. We have Boxing Day here, which is kind of like your Black Friday. And we had a lot of clients that went out and bought brand new Samsungs, and they got the little touchscreen remote and all this other stuff. And our guys have been spending a lot of time these last couple of weeks installing them, and they're great. But what we can do with that screen and an actual proper control system versus what you can do with their ridiculous 8 hard button and 1 semi-responsive touchscreen is night and day different. And I think this is going to kind of fall into the same category of them doing something that is very cool and fairly effective, but again is only going to play so well with other things and is only going to fit in for so many clients. For some people, they'll get this, they'll play with it, they'll love it because they can do 1 or 2 little things. But at least for I know our clientele, they're not going to be jumping over this. They're going to find it slightly confusing because they'll have to do it themselves. Because I'm not going to.
No, hang on for a second though. I mean, you're. I mean, to cut you off there, but you're a big time Lutron guy, and they have some DIY stuff that you can get at Best Buy or not Best Buy, good lord, but Lowe's. Is this not something you could do for them?
It is, but the issue that we will have with this, that we have with any of those real, actual DIY projects, is the client's expectation when we go to install something is usually the world. That, hey, because we bought it from OAV or we bought it from VIA or we bought it from whoever, that, hey, we can do anything. We can start our car and, turn on a radio station in the car just because we bought this little controller from, Matt's company. But with products like this where our hands are going to be ridiculously tied, it's kind of the same thing as the Nest or when Sonos first came out and there was no integration whatsoever. It was truly a DIY product, which, yes, we could make some money installing and occasionally selling. But what our business is designed to do is to provide an actual custom solution. These kind of products don't really give us that freedom to get truly custom and truly build something that's tailor-made for that client. And that's where, again, I'm not saying it's a bad product. It's just one of those things that we're not really going to see. Most of the people that are going to buy these are going to be the DIY, hey, I want to set this up and do it, and, I'm going to make it work for me. But I don't see it in our market really at all.
I got you, because you can't customize it, and you can't make it do exactly necessarily what they want it to do sometimes because of the restrictions that Samsung would put on it. So,
can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I think, along those lines, it's not going to integrate, not going to be something that's meaningful for your market. But my impression is the more people are aware of these kinds of technologies, the sort of, the raised awareness will make people who are more interested in your level, learn about them and ask questions, and could be good for business all around.
Oh, I agree completely. I think that this is one of those products like Sonos was when it first came out, and even Nest was, that is raising the tide. So it's going to raise the tide and bring the general awareness because, as Tim said, I'm a big lighting control guy. 9 times out of 10, when I bring up a lighting control conversation, the first response I get, and anybody, especially in Resi, will know this for sure, is they get the, "Oh, clap on, perfect." And that's that perfect dichotomy of what the industry penetration is that we have. And we talked about this, I think, Tim, on the last show I was on with you, that we need products like this on the market that general consumers see, love, and want to allow us to come out and then sell better products that are better suited and a step up. And, again, I think this is one of those things that can be perfect for it. I'm not going to sell it, but it's going to be great for hopefully helping bridge clients into better technologies and things that are better suited for them and better suited for our business.
Chris, we'll move on with same kind of question. How successful do you think Samsung will be with this? I mean, is this one of those things where they'll find a nice niche in this market, or will it kind of come and go as some things kind of tend to do?
Well, from the consumer Resi side of the business, I'm sure they'll be fine because a lot of people know and trust their brand. I mean, they are the combatants to everything Apple. So would it be successful? Right now, they're one of those companies that their name will sell a product because their name is on it. Think 15 years ago, anything that had a Sony name on it was the best. Their name sold their product. Right now, Samsung's hot. Somebody will want this. They'll decide between this and something Apple decides to put together. From a commercial side, I'm with Matt. This is the clapper. I mean, I got to deal with this. Questions on Monday when somebody buys it on the weekend. Can I use this in my office? No. Can I use the Nest in my office? No.
Now wait a minute. Hang on for a second. You can't. You guys don't put the Nest in the. You wouldn't put the Nest in the business?
I'm sure the union electricians and HVAC guys that work in these buildings would absolutely love to have individual Nest controls firing things up and down and up and around all over the buildings. No. So, I mean, what it does, like Matt says, is it opens up the doors. So now at least people that never realized that there are such things as control systems out there will come to me and say, maybe I do need a control system. Because what a lot of guys on the Resi side, you guys will sell products and say, you know what, you have, and it's very easy, it seems like on the Resi side, to say you need a unified remote control. You can call it that. If you can get it into a touch screen, great. Now with iPads, it makes life a little easier for you guys. In the commercial side, there's always been this pushback of control system equals a lot of money, and I just want something simple. Whether it's a integrated VC, if it's an integrated VC system, then you have to do it. All I have to do then is just drop 20 remotes in front of them and say, okay, this controls your audio conferencing, this controls your video conferencing, this is for one TV, this is for the other, this is for your integrated audio. It makes sense, but it seems that whenever we were talking to customers or end users, whether, pick an instance, they see the price tag of the control system, and can we get rid of that? And can we get rid of audio conferencing? Those are the two that usually get cut out on the value engineering side of the business. They will, try to cut out integrated audio and control because they have a remote on the table, and that's why pedestal, cart video conferencing systems in the commercial world still live, because not everybody wants to justify getting a control system.
Yeah, and putting it in one spot. Yeah.
These automated devices at home at least have opened up the eyes to the executive who's like, you know what? If I show from my iPad, I don't want it. Take your iPad, we'll put it on the cradle, and we can make it work. As long as it's a company issued iPad, we have no problem getting on the company network. We can try. But I love all this conversation that's going on the Resi side, because I think it helps us explain our things a lot easier. So
Well, yeah, and then you just brought up a really good point. Is as long as the company issued iPad and you can get in the company network. If it's not, good luck doing that in some in some IT departments. So, Jason, we'll let you have the last word on Samsung and Control. Are they making a good move here? Are they stepping into waters, but maybe they shouldn't be?
I'm going to be bold and say that this is going to fail miserably.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't think Samsung. I don't think this really fits.
You think? Are you sure? It looks awesome.
It does look awesome, and it's one gang and.
I think Samsung's kind of playing in no man's land here, and the reason I say that is because it feels like, when I read the article at least, it feels like integrating with third-party anything was kind of treated as an afterthought, and I see this developing as another closed system that might play nicely if you want everything in your house to be Samsung, but as soon as you introduce anything else, you're kind of up a creek, and it may be appealing to a small market of enthusiasts and DIYers, but for the future of residential and sort of more budget do-it-yourself home automation systems, I think companies like SmartThings and Revolve, those guys I think are making a much smarter play because they're sort of a layer on top of all these. Like everything's got an app now, right? We run into that a lot in residential. Like when we talk to our clients and we talk to them about control systems and they say, well, my DirecTV has a standalone app and everything has a standalone app. And it's kind of, I heard an interesting analogy that's everything having its own app is kind of the modern day equivalent of a coffee table covered in remotes. It's like, so you're constantly switching back and forth, and companies like SmartThings and Revolve are trying to solve that problem. They're not trying to sort of reinvent the control protocols of each device. They're just sort of putting a nice layer on top of those that'll tie everything into a unified interface. I don't see how this fits Samsung's business model. I just don't think it's going to work. I mean, it might stick around for a while and it might gain traction with a small group of people, but I don't think it's going to stick personally.
All right. Maybe it'll stick around as long as X10 did, though. So who knows?
That's possible.
We claimed that to be dead already.
You know what?
Nobody wants that.
We had the funeral for that already.
I got a nasty email from our buddy Harry Mead the time that we declared X10 dead because he still uses X10. So
We're trying to get him saved.
To power the one incandescent.
Very hard.
It's very hard. Well, he's a Ravens fan, so there's not much we can do about that.
It doesn't, it stops.
It does stop.
Now we'll see if he watches.
Yeah. You're listening and watching AV Week with that gentleman right there. His name is Matt Scott. Jason Griffin from Via Home is here with us. Grant Clouser from Electronic Home Magazine and a fine publication from Pubs, and Chris Neto, the original Red Bander, and also works for AVHelpdesk. So, also, we're quickly we're going to delve into CES real quick. We're going to start with Grant because he's the only one of us who actually went, and the rest of us are kind of give our impression of CES kind of through his eyes and through the other reporters that were their eyes. Grant, you wrote a couple. Actually, you wrote quite a few different articles. From your standpoint, and from someone who actually was there on the show floor with you and 150,000 of your closest friends, what was one or two technologies that you were like, this is it. This is what CES is going to be about this year?
Well, for me, I was mostly paying attention to the television, so it was 4K all over the place.
Yeah.
Every major manufacturer and the manufacturers that you'll find at Costco and whatnot were just loaded with 4K TVs. But what struck me so much was some of the odd televisions there. The prevalence of the curved televisions I still can't get over, and the flappy TVs, the curved TVs that would bend inward. They can go from flat to curved. Gimmicks, I just don't get it. Those are sort of we'll make it because we can, and it'll get people like me to write articles about it. But I don't know that those are actually ever. If they become real things and people start buying them, I doubt it. But 4K televisions are are going to be the big thing this year. I've told manufacturers that the only TVs I want to review this year are 4K. The big problem is content, and most of the content news was focused around streaming content. There was Reed Hastings from Netflix came up and said that the average user should be able to get 4K stream Netflix with 15 megabits per second.
Mm-hmm.
I have trouble believing that because I have trouble getting 1080 out of Netflix, with my Fios connection. So that's I think gonna be a big problem, especially for the integrators who should be focusing a lot on making sure that their clients have excellent networks, especially if they're going to start buying 4K TVs and expect to be streaming Breaking Bad in 4K or whatever.
Well, real quickly, and we'll move on to the guys, and again, that weren't there, seeing it through your eyes. As far as the 4K streaming and even the 4K downloading, you mentioned Netflix. YouTube has talked about they're ramping up their streaming efforts as well. Amazon with Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you have the network, and you mentioned Fios, you've also got some of these internet providers who have caps, monthly caps on what. So how is that going to affect the 4K movement?
Oh well, it'll be a problem, especially with the news a couple of days ago of net neutrality issues possibly allowing the telecom companies to squeeze different providers in different ways, or allowing Netflix through but not allowing Amazon if they want to. Who knows if that'll ever happen? But the future world of getting 4K into your TV is still really foggy.
Yeah. We kind of followed the network neutrality, and we might talk about it here towards the end. Chris, from your standpoint, again, someone who was not in Vegas but seeing it through the eyes of people like Grant and others, what was one or two technologies that was this is what CES is about this year?
And I am frantically searching for it because I saw something that caught my eye, and I cannot find it anywhere right now. But apparently, one of the things that they showed out there that caught my interest was robotic projectors.
I saw that, yeah.
That will go and move around and project whatever you want to see in whatever room, just by calling it over, or I'm sure some sort of NFC. The interest is, I'm sure that may be something very kitschy sounding to a lot of people, but if that can somehow be applied to a commercial application, I see the technicians that run around with projectors now all of a sudden finding it home. It could be the new mail bot of the commercial environment if they could figure this out. It's tough. I mean, you can have a whole pool of these things, and they just run around and project in the rooms when they're needed, and when they're done, sort of makes things a little bit efficient. But that's me thinking out there, I guess. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I never thought that somebody was going to put a projector on a Roomba and call it a day, but that it works for me. The other thing I saw that that caught my interest was I'm interested in the whole automated car stuff. Not automated car, but how cars are getting tech-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I spend way too much time in the car. So anything that can be done that will help me get through my day or get my stuff done while in the car is very interesting. That to me is big. And then when you combine that with wearable stuff that everybody's talking about, I don't know if wearable is right there yet, but this whole podcast, we've been talking about the CES stuff. This is the consumer side of the Internet of Things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants everything connected somehow. Your refrigerator telling you that your milk is low. You get in the car, your mirrors adjust because it knows that you're there because you're wearing a watch that tells that you're there. Sort of like we're adding convenience, and I think that's what, or personalization to things. And I think this is where the big theme around everything with CES was that it's all about customization and personalization, all via the internet. So those are the top things that I was looking at. Nothing else. I could care less now about headphones. I've seen now 3 CES shows with enough big headphones, unless something new and improved came out, like the Maserati ones, which just or have a Maserati sticker on of ours and Wilkins heads. Outside of that, regardless.
So that doesn't make them better?
No.
Of course, that makes them better.
Now,
It's
if they were on a
Okay.
pair of Sennheiser Momentums, that would might make them better.
Yeah, I like those.
Sorry, that was from my buddy Michael. Jason, from sitting back and on the far west coast, looking at you could have driven to Vegas, for crying out loud, dude. What was one or two things coming out of CES that kind of you were like, this is it, this is what CES is about?
Yeah, it's hard for me to point to like one or two specific products, but I was really interested in the Internet of Things, the wearable technology, how this is going to affect home automation, that sort of thing. One of the coolest things I saw was actually smart things. I don't know if you guys saw this video. It was kind of going around. They rented out a house kind of outside of Vegas and outfitted it with all their technology, and they did some really cool demos of what can be done with their technology now. And it was just really interesting to see. I think Smart Things is really onto something, and I think they're one to watch in terms of DIY home automation. Wearable technology, I think we're sort of on the horizon of cool things going on with that, but to me, CES this year felt like it's sort of, I read an article that described it as the adjacent possible, and this is a concept that was written about where it's like big breakthroughs tend to happen in different places of the world at the same time because we're all working off of the same assumptions of what we think is possible. And I think CES was kind of that this year, where we're finally just starting to see some of the cool applications for the Internet of Things and how it can really come into our everyday lives. So it'll be interesting to watch over the next year. I personally didn't feel like there was one breakout product that just floored me. Obviously, 4K is exciting. Some of the wearable stuff was cool, but there's a few companies I'll be keeping my eye on this year, and we'll see. Maybe we'll have a conversation next year about the big breakthrough.
OLED, brother. Just OLED. Sorry, that's.
Wait a minute.
What?
Everybody's talked about CES.
Yeah.
Everybody's talked about CES, but since Grant was the only one there, can we at least get a first-hand account of what happened when Michael Bay dropped the microphone? And
Yes, Grant, go.
Oh, that was great. I was really hoping that my hashtag Baybail would catch on, but didn't. But yeah, you had a crowd of 1,000 journalists all just looking at each other, going, "What the hell?"
God.
As one of the biggest people in entertainment decides that he can't ad lib and just walks off the stage.
Now, in Mr. Bay's defense, he's a director, not an actor.
Sure.
Not used to teleprompting, and go. Never mind. I got nothing. Matt, you got the last word on this one. What was CES about for you this year, looking at it remotely?
It's really hard because I was waiting for, again, something hopefully groundbreaking, as we do with every show we either attend or follow, and I didn't really see it, which unfortunately seems to be kind of the trend the last couple of years with most of these shows. Just because of what we do, the biggest things for me was some of these 4K screens and some of the pricing for some of these 4K screens, which I think will again be that upgrade cycle, because we're finding that again, just at least for us, for our company, most of our clients have now completely made the transition to HD. So we're not getting some of those room upgrades that we used to get as they would transition. So pretty much as fast as 4K can get here with content, the happier we'll be, because it will again open that upgrade phase again, which is good. The other thing that really excited me, I guess, would have been some of the automotive increases, and I'm headed next week, I believe on Tuesday, to the Detroit International Auto Show, and I'm hoping that they will have brought some of the stuff that they talked about at CES to this show, as it's one of the bigger shows in the world for the automotive industry. So I'm really intrigued to see what that does, because that's we're still very old school with most of the technology in a lot of the vehicles that are available today. And as they continue to advance those two things, I think that's going to be really, really cool to watch, especially because I'm really getting tired of getting tickets for multiple infractions, mainly tech-related.
You? No.
I know you're shocked.
I thought they just apologized for you being in your way.
He's investing in video conferencing if he can't drive anywhere.
Well, yeah, there is that. Do they have, those little monitoring? Never mind. All right, last but not least, guys, ZDNet reprinted an article from actually 2008 that said Blu Ray is dead. It was written by a guy by the name of Robin Harris, and he outlines a couple of things, and then they updated it by adding streaming to it. But basically he says, look, after all the hoo-ha, after the big war with HD DVD, Blu-ray won, and nobody cared. They've got about 5 to 6% market share. Independent filmmakers aren't making Blu-rays because of the cost of printing them and producing them. And then, you throw in this whole streaming 4K thing. Not even 4K. You can stream. People are streaming in HD. You can stream for YouTube in HD. Reed Hastings, the head of Netflix, has famously said that they will be out of the DVD, the physical media business, by 2020. And in case you've forgotten, that's only 6 years away now, kids. Yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, is Blu-ray, or let's not make fun of Sony. Let's just say physical media. Is it? I'm not going to say it's on the way out. I think it's pretty well on its way out. Chris, we'll start with you. When will physical media be on its way out?
I don't think no. It's not going to go away, not yet. Maybe I give it another 2 years.
2 years, wow.
I was going to say tomorrow, but I'll go with 2 years. and the only reason why I say that is that there is still lines at the Redbox vending machine to get your DVD. And every time I go, I can't get my copy of the Wolverine. I have to reserve it ahead of time to go get it, or whatever the case is. Whatever it is that I was planning on watching. There is it's sort of like books. The Nook and the Kindle was supposed to kill the books. I still go to the bookstore. I get made fun of, but there's something about being in a bookstore and picking that up. I still go out and buy CDs. If I truly like what I'm hearing, I buy 1 or 2 songs maybe and carry it on my phone. But my phone and my iPod are 2 different things because I carry 2 or 3 different phones with me and gadgets and stuff. I still have a physical CD in my car. Maybe I'm old school, but I also have vinyl, so I don't.
Well, that's a whole different conversation too. That's a whole. There's actually somebody.
Believe it or not.
No, somebody.
If you want to lump that in, vinyl's making a resurgence.
Yes.
On its way back.
Yeah.
I don't know on what, though. Many record players are still being sold to the public.
Well, actually, quite a few now that the vinyl's making its way back. So.
Yep.
Grant, if let's ask you 2 questions. First of all, do you think the physical media is on its way out? And if it is, then when?
Yes, but not for a while.
Okay.
If clearly, streaming or other kinds of internet delivery is going to take over. But until the quality can match Blu-ray, it's Blu-ray still has to be here. A movie that I care about, I buy on Blu-ray. I stream a lot of TV shows and and crappy horror movies, from Netflix and whatnot. But when I care about the movie, there's just nothing that compares to Blu-ray. Now, except for one thing, and that's Kaleidoscape's download, because that is a bit-for-bit copy, and that's beautiful. But even their least expensive system is $4,000, so that's where.
Which is a steal, by the way, if you compare it to their other stuff.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, that's a really good unit, but it certainly is not for everybody. When even a really great Blu-ray player from Oppo is $500-600, and then you can get your Blu-rays for cheap at Amazon or Walmart.
All right, moving on. Jason, what again? Is physical media on its way out, and if so, how long does it have?
I think to a certain extent it is. Maybe it's. I don't think it's ever going to go away completely, like Chris said. I mean, there is an application for Blu Ray discs for people now who want the real high quality viewing experience, right? But I can tell you this from my experience in residential, and we do high end jobs. We stick a couple Blu Ray players in almost every job we do, and they hardly ever get used. Everybody just wants the convenience now of Apple TV, and unless we're doing like a dedicated theater, they get used in there, but that's about it. A lot of the viewing rooms, people just want to sit down and have the convenience of streaming and being able to select from, Apple TV stores or Netflix or what have you. So I do think that the writing is on the wall for Blu-ray, and it's hard to say exactly how long that process is going to take, but I do see it in my day-to-day work that it's just getting used less and less.
Yeah, it's almost gotten to the point where it's a VHS player. So.
Yeah.
Matt, I shouldn't ask you this because you guys are still waiting on your Betamaxes from 1970, the Canadian government.
This whole conversation is very hard for me considering the stash I just got in of new Blu-rays. But
cheers.
All right, well then no, take
I just opened the box as we were conversating.
Nice.
Yeah, Amazon, love it. I do agree in the States. I think you will see physical media continue to die very quickly. Again, I don't think it's a 1 month or 6 month deal. I think it's going to be, still another 4 or 5 years before it's completely gone for a couple of reasons. Namely, the fact that, yes, streaming is available, but streaming is only available where you have access to the internet speeds and the transmission, the throughput to allow it to do it consistently and very well. And until they get to a point where they can do that, the infrastructure, right now just isn't there. Now, when we start talking about places like Canada, for me, it's a whole different story because we don't have access to the content that you guys do. So we don't have Hulu. We don't have Vudu. We do have Netflix, but it's Canadian Netflix. So we don't have access to all these shows that you guys get. Shut up, Mr. Neto.
Do you have? And I'm not being hateful. You mentioned Amazon. Do you have Amazon Prime?
We do, but not to the same.
Again, there are restrictions to the titles.
Yes, okay. All the content is, or the majority of the content is restricted. You cannot get stuff, again, to the sense that you guys can. So when you look at it on a global scale, there are so many other markets, and I know that the U.S. is one of the main pushers for all of this technology, but globally it's not. It's completely different. So even for us, we can't go to CBS to watch the latest episode of Intelligence or whatever you want to watch. So for us, we still have a wide variety of people that are still running DVDs and Blu-rays so that they can go and get the latest season of Castle or NCIS or whatever it is and watch it, because there's outside of paying for it through iTunes, there's no other marketplace that really makes it available. So when you get outside...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Matt, I'm listening to you and I'm just going, where do you live, dude? I mean, honestly, I used to go to Europe, and I used to tell people that we're 2 seasons ahead of their shows. You're on the same track as, like, Bosnia. Dude, you guys got to get something up there. What is going on? Nice. Lost is over. Lost finished 2 years ago.
What?
I will spoil the ending.
I'll tell you how MASH ended it if you want.
No, I still love MASH.
Wow.
Well, and you know what? There are ways that you could, at least I've been told there are ways.
There are ways that you can circumvent the IP situations and whatnot. But, again, you're adding... Yes, you're adding more things in, and, as an integrator, we don't do that for anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a service called Nightmare, and it's technically illegal.
Yes, on several planets. Yes,
And there's that.
Many planets. But it's one of those things where, unfortunately, yes, we're not as far back as, say, Bosnia, but we're not much farther ahead either. And for us, that's why we're not going to see it here for quite a long time. We're just starting to see apps like HBO Go and local versions of that for our local broadcasters available. But the Super Bowl is what, a week away?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
All those commercials that you guys watch. Shut up. All those commercials that you guys.
It may be on a very heavy load for you guys.
For all those commercials that they pay millions of dollars for every 30-second spot, we're going to get overlaid with retarded, stupid little car commercials for some local car dealer, little pizza junk. Like, it's once you get outside of your country, you guys have no idea how the rest of the world works.
And we're typical Americans in that. Yeah, you're right.
So to get back to the point of, is Blu-ray going to die? Yes, it will. And at some point, we'll get to a point where everything's stored on hard drives and served from the cloud, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the U.S. will probably lead the way in that. But then it will be additional, quite a few additional years before everyone else gets to that point.
Yeah.
Especially us lowly Canadians.
Especially you lowly Canadians. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. In my hot little hands here, I just received this today, the Infocom 2014 Education Catalog. If you have not gotten it yet or haven't seen it, either go online or ask the person who handles your Infocom membership. Inside, I like doing this because it always shows me how far behind I am, especially compared to my buddy Harry Mead. There's a track here for every single discipline. There's a technology manager track, a project manager track, obviously designer, installer for the CTSD and the CTSI. So check that out either online or ask the person who handles your Infocom membership. It's the 2014 Education Catalog. So check that out. All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mr. Chris Neto is from AV Shout, AVHelpdesk, and the Red Band. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and I think that your Vadio group station worked rather well. So,
thanks, and we will be having some upcoming additional Red Band things coming up for the podcast. So I look forward to getting that done. And Matt, I will meet you on Sunday at the border. I'll bring all my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. copies for you to catch up on.
Dude, bring me some bootleg stuff, please. I'm all about it.
Also with us is Grant Clouser, technology editor, and a bunch of other stuff for Electronic House Magazine. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you very much. And can't you get a sling box to get some stuff to Canada?
That you can do. And we have a couple clients that we do that for. But again, it's jumping through all these ridiculous hoops just to watch something that ABC gives to all you Americans for free.
But there's more of us. So, since we're on Matt, thank you so much. He's from
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Omega Audio Video. And last but not least, Jason Griffin. He's from VIA Home, project manager there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My name is Tim Albright. Thanks so much for joining us. Go by the website if you would, please. The World's Worst Canadian has spent an awful lot of time on it. His name is Matt Scott. He's our web guy. It looks pretty, but if you don't think it looks pretty, let us know how you'd like us to change it. He might get to it by the time we have a new president. So,
wow,
that's in 2 years, Matt. No, it looks really good.
That you just threw me under.
It looks really good. I'm giving you a hard time.
It felt great, thanks.
It looks really good.
Would you like your knife back?
So please go by the website, avnation.tv. avnation.tv. You'll find this show, our education show. We're getting ready to post a new DIY. So check those out. The AV Social, which is a social marketing and media show. The Red Band guys have a podcast there. So yeah, go by the website, avnation.tv. avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.